Welcome back, everybody, to the Victory Road World Cup pre-show for the finals. I am joined by a very sleepy-looking Stefan Mott, and we're here to bring you a bit more of the fun of the rest of this match. We've had the stats, we've had the interviews, and now we're going to go forward and look at things like some caster matches just to kind of get a vibe of what we get up to behind the scenes whilst we, also cast and get everything prepped for you on the stream transitions. So, how are you doing so far, Stefan?
Fine. It's been a long day so far. We've got a lot out of the way. And I'm excited to see some Little Cup action. Little Cup's always been really, really fun. I think it's really, really neat in VGC, especially. And there is a Little Cup circuit that exists and has existed for a little while, and I think that's where our two commentators slash players today have sourced their teams from. So tried and tested teams. Looking forward to some top level Little Cup team building action and seeing how these teams work.
Yeah, it'd be good to see some action from them. Of course, as you said, there's been an established format in the DPEC format, which was set up, over time by players who decided, VGC wasn't as fun as it could be, and they had a breakaway. And there's a lot of resources out there, and hopefully the resources are put to good use, and they are, showing their full potential. We did see on that preview some of the teams we have that we could be seeing. And they're quite similar to what we see in VGC. You have your strong weather setters or your strong speed abusers and just super fast, super powerful Pokemon. So wouldn't be too different to commentate over and view, but it's a little bit of fun because those small little Pokemon you rarely ever see battling out to be victorious.
Indeed. And our two combatants today, we do have Evan, of course, Evan Smoke, one of our commentators, going up against another one of our commentators in Ben. So it's going to be fun, it's going to be a very, very good matchup. Ben Kyriakou, of course, he's been around for a little longer than Evan, but Evan, the stats king, who will reign supreme in this caster battle, only time will tell.
Time will tell, and it'll be see who does come forward. Of course, us casters like to have a bit of competition. Not all of us get that main stage. Of course, you had your, Switzerland going quite far these past couple of years, and I unfortunately wasn't able to go as far as I could have done with Ireland this year. But we'll see what sort of thing we'd have afterwards, as we do see from this quick wing here. We see our caster achievements so far, and Evan, joining us as one of our newer casters. Ben Kyriakou has been with us for a while now, all the way back to 2020 when Victory Road, started dabbling in doing these streams. So, have to see if their castle knowledge does go through to their Little Cup knowledge.
Yeah, and Evan, of course, might be a little bit newer to the casting scene, but he's done a fantastic job as well. One of my favorite people to commentate with every time we end up on the desk together. And a very, very smart brain on the that man has a very big brain. You see it from the work he does with VDC Pace, the work he's done here with the Victory Road World Cup, and I'm expecting to see it shine through in this game. Where let's split this up a little bit. I'm gonna be Team Evan for this cast.
Yeah, I'll be Ben. I'll be Team Ben. I go quite a while back with Ben. So we'll have to see where that goes with. I will say you might have that bit of an advantageous position because Evan is one of the volunteer staff members for the DPEC server, so he has a bit of experience in this format. So you could be winning in that little battle we have there ourselves.
Yeah, we were doing a $10,000 bet on this match, right? Just,
If I had that money, Pengy.
I don't have that money either. But all right. So it's I'm excited though. It's like Little Cup is one of those formats that I think doesn't get as much love as it should. We can see the teams on screen now. Couple of mirrored Pokemon. We got the Porygon base form, the Rufflet in there as well, the Tangela. So about half of the teams overlapping, but Evan has access to the Onix, the Kubfu, and the Pawniard. That's what it's called. There we go. And Ben has access to the Diglett, the Vulpix, and to the Fletchling. So some really, really cool options here. Ben, of course, having access to Priority Tailwind, which is going to be kind of nice off of that Fletchling. And, of course, the Sun mode with the Vulpix as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fun seeing how either of them kind of pilot these Pokemon are very similar on both teams. Of course, for those of you who aren't too keyed in to our Little Cup format, Rufflet is often called the Zacian of Little Cup because with the combination of Dynamax, Life Orb, and Hustle, that thing is knocking out most things, even if they're only taking neutral damage. And, other than that, we can see kind of similarities to what we see in like normal VGC, such as Ben running a very Rinja Sun-esque team with the Sunset of a ground type, with the Zacian replacement, with a sleeping Pokemon, and just Trick Room mode. So maybe we could kind of see that sort of similarity happen throughout this game. But then Evan is going with what seems to be a very slow, very bulky team. Of course, Kubfu is known for using moves such as coaching to try and set up its opponents, and Onyx, I don't know much about. Often I just joke about it, saying it has a smaller attack stat than what is it now? The one of the grass type Pokemon from Kanto has a smaller attack stat than it, which I find really funny. But maybe with the help of that coaching, it can pop off in this match.
Yeah, and of course it does have access to an incredibly strong defense stat. So maybe that's the game plan. Maybe it's going to be some Iron Defense kind of shenaniganry with the Onyx. I'm not really sure what the game plan is there, but it's going to be interesting to see. You know, the thing does also get access to Body Press, so Iron Defense Body Press could be the way to go on that Onyx, but time will tell. We're just going to have to wait and see what Evan is planning.
Yeah, see what Evan is planning. No, Body Press I didn't think of because, you know, again, it's these Pokemon we don't see very often, and often they're known for having very low defense stats, which is why, you know, some Little Cup formats, some of these Pokemon are either banned or, you know, maybe restricted to one or two of, just because of how their stats work. We do see a really nice lead out, though, of the Tangler versus Tangler, and then Kubfu and Diglett. So I have to see what is obviously happening here, because Kubfu, you know, we can see an Ice Punch there, could possibly knock out the Tangler if it has a strong enough attack stat, or Scary Face it to guarantee that it is going to be the slower Tangler, meaning that Diglett is going to have some sleeping time. If a sleep powder does hit, or maybe it's going to get knocked out straight away if it is a more offensive Tangler, because Tangler can go one of two ways, really. It can be bulky and offensive, or slow and bulky and just put things to sleep and then Leech Seed and Giga Drain back over time.
Yeah, and of course, Tangela tends to be a pretty effective physical wall as well. I believe we don't know where the Eviolite's going to be, but Tangela's a pretty good option for that item. Then going to go for an immediate Dynamax here. Is this going to be the Diglett? Diglett, it's not exactly the bulkiest thing, so yeah, it is indeed going to be the Tangela. And even with Diglett Dynamaxing, I would be scared that it would just not get its 3 turns. I feel like it could just, drop because it doesn't, have any kind of bulk whatsoever. So the Tangela here looks like a bit of a more, a better play here by Ben. And let's see exactly what he's going to be going for.
You see Rock Slide showing out. Of course, Diglett is the fastest Pokemon tied with Aleki, or some of us call it the Reggie Alekid, would be in that format. You see a Max Ooze coming out low as well for this Tangler, so it's going to be a special attacking variant with coverage and just misses knockout on the opposing Tangler, which, could be a benefit because it does force a switch, especially in this format where you never know what's coming in. It's a wild roulette Pokemon, but also could be scary because you are allowing like that Sleep Powder or maybe a Giga Drain later on just to recover HP or stall out the game further and further. And given that you're very fragile as well, being asleep or threatened with your Dynamax either on or off, it is going to be a really iffy situation to fight through.
Yeah, this is going to get a little bit scary here now for Evan. Ben, full HP on that Tangela, +1 special attack now. And while I did talk about Tangela as a special wall earlier, it does also have a very good special attack stat for Little Cup. 100 base special attack. That's stronger than Lapras. So it's stronger than Colossal, which I think is a better way to phrase it. So, it's going to be really, really interesting to see just how far this Dynamax Tangela can carry Ben in this game. Tangela's going to go for the Protect on Evan's side. Not going to keep it alive from a Max move, but it will protect it from a potential Rock Slide from the Diglett.
Yeah, protecting something from Diglett will mean it stays around a little bit longer, given Diglett is super fast. We do see that the interaction of the White Herb to that Scary Face, meaning that it's still going to be the fastest Pokemon on the field without that Sun being set up. Rock Slide, though, will go down, not get the Tangler, and Kubfu won't take very much due to his fighting type, but the Max Mindstorm also revealed from that Tangler, going to knock out Kubfu, who isn't known for the bulkiest Pokemon. It often is there to press Coaching or Scary Face, or maybe just have a really strong fighting type move or ice type move to get coverage from some of those bulkier Pokemon we see in the format. But having it gone does give Ben a bit of a clearer path to kind of, think, okay, something that can maybe drop my stats or boost the ally stats is gone, and you can just be a scot-free path here just to kind of take out Pokemon as and when he wants to.
What a cool tech there. Max Mindstorm on the Tangela. You might be thinking there at home, when did Tangela ever get a Psychic move? Like, that thing doesn't get Psychic. No. He's running Confusion, one of the weakest psychic moves, just to have access to Max Mindstorm, probably as a counterplay to Kubfu and several other fighting types in the format. That's a really, really neat tech there by Ben, planning to go for that Dynamax Tangela right from the off. We can see he's almost definitely carrying Stab Grass, which means a 3-attack Tangela. And, with +1 from that Max Ooze earlier, this thing is going to be very, very hard to stop.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to stop in its tracks completely. Of course, most players maybe prep for that bulkier version, which is going to be really confusing when you see it getting these rolling boosts. And now it's got the boost of the Max Ooze, the boost of the Psychic Terrain. So if it just goes for another one of those Psychic Terror attacks, it could be a lot of damage, even into this Rufflet. But we see Rufflet is going big here. And Penny, I don't know if you've seen very much of the format, but once Rufflet goes big, it's not really going home, it's going ham. And we have to see how Ben reacts to this, because it's going to have Flying for the Tangler. It's going to have super strong boosts with Diglett, who's fragile as hell anyway. So let's see what happens from here if there are any outs. Rock Slide comes through and does minimal damage to what looked like in Team Preview a Eviolite Rufflet.
Oh, is it Eviolite on the Rufflet? That's very interesting. It does mean that it's going to be lacking some of that damage output, but apparently not. A gigantic amount of damage going into that Tangela. Hustle is just such a good ability. But you know what else is good? Weakness policy. All of a sudden, the Tangela sitting at +3. Max Ooze is going to go on in. I don't think this will be enough, though. Max Ooze is generally a very low base power Dynamax move, so despite getting that Max Ooze boost, a little bit rough here. Rufflet, a significantly faster Pokemon than Tangela, I believe. I'm just going to double check that really quickly, though. Actually, no, they're the same base speed. So, if we have that Vulpix in the back, we could see the Vulpix switch on in, and then there's +4 Tangela after that second Max Ooze. Maybe be able to pick up a KO on the Rufflet if it has that Chlorophyll ability.
We'll likely have that Chlorophyll ability, given we have Sin, the Vulpix in the background. Of course, the regenerate ability is nothing to really roll an eye at if it is the option. Evan maybe did have that on his Tangler, because that is just, it is a very, very bulky team, and with no Sun, you can probably catch a Sun on the switch in, but I'll have to see if that is something that he opts to try to maybe mess around with in game 2, maybe teasing the switch in throughout. But as we see, the Pokemon on the field, they're not overly scared of what's here. If there's a fighting move on that, sorry, the Pawniard's on that side, but yeah, so none of these Pokemon really have access to boosted knockout. Diglett could be just spamming those Rock Slides. Sucker Punch coming out, just going to chip into that Rufflet, get a critical hit. Not that it mattered with how little that did. That Eviolite coming in so handy for Rufflet. Of course, given how strong it is, you can just invest very little in its attack and put all into its bulk. Getting a knockout there, just meaning that threat of possibly a Sun Switch in with that Tangler, it's gone. Bit of a fairground now. There's no Sleep Powder possibilities, but you have got access to moves that could maybe knock out Pokemon here, there, everywhere. Diglett, though, is going to go down.
Yeah, Diglett, not an impressive Pokemon defensively whatsoever. Pawniard picking up that KO easily, and now just 2 left here for Ben. I'm imagining there's probably no Vulpix here, otherwise you would have gone for the Vulpix switch-in on that turn. Oh, okay, there is a Vulpix there, so a little bit curious about why that didn't come in on the last turn, but this is going to be tough because there's still another turn of Dynamax on the Rufflet. There's a speed boost on the Pawniard, 2 speed boosts on the Rufflet. I don't really see how Ben gets out of this.
Yeah, Ben, he has the possibility to go for it if he could maybe, get some good calls. Of course, the Rufflet has got the speed boost, though, and is going to be rolling with how strong it is. So it could just say hi to these Pokemon and say goodbye to them on the same turn. Pawniard, of course, isn't going to enjoy if maybe a close combat comes out or if a heat wave comes out, because it's fairly fragile given how strong it can be in Little Cup. So it'll be nice to see how Evan, could take advantage of this to get as much damage off as possible, whilst also, making sure that those Pokemon that could be strong against him don't get a damage off as well. To see if those speed boosts come in handy. The opposing Rufflet going to protect, opting for that longevity, maybe thinking, hey, once the other Rufflet goes small, because it's not one of those Life-Orb versions, it can take less and less damage. The Rufflet, though, will take that Max Knuckle. With that Life-Orb, it is going to get those damage rolls, and that crit might be a little bit annoying for those damage rolls later on. So let's see if Pawniard can get a knockout as well. If we did see I do believe a double up with the Assurance. It did not. It goes into the Vulpix and does miss the knockout. And Will-O-Wisp comes out and burns the Rufflet. This could be a sticky situation if Ben's Rufflet can live the moves it needs to live.
Yeah, we don't entirely... I mean, this is going to be really, really rough here, right? Because I feel like the Rufflet's speed is going to allow it to just take out the Vulpix at least very, very easily. And I'm not sure how the Rufflet's able to deal with both Pokemon, the Rufflet on Ben's side. So this is going to be interesting. We do have +1 on the Rufflet as well, which offsets some of that burn. So it's been a closely fought battle. This one is coming down to the wire a little bit, Kana.
It is coming down to the wire, and we'll see. You know, like I said, it will come down to if those speed boosts have really had that opportunity to shine through with both Pokemon on low HP. Sucker Punch going into the Rufflet though does grab that knockout.
Yep, that's going to be enough, and the Rufflet being faster, the burn is not going to save your 10 HP Vulpix from this. Brave Bird goes in, and Ben goes down in game number 1. A good game 1 here by Evan. Ben got a lot of momentum at the beginning of the game. Maybe not running Chlorophyll on that Tangela. I feel like if he switches the Vulpix in on that last on the first turn after Dynamax, he maybe automatically wins the game if the Chlorophyll is the ability on that Tangela. So makes you think, is he really running something else? Is he really running Regenerator on an offensive Tangela?
It could be their Regenerator option because, you know, then again, I guess you have that fear that if you have those weakness policy boosts, why would you want to switch out? So maybe he was just thinking, oh, I can bluff the Regenerator, or just try and set the pace, thinking it'll live longer, getting Vulpix in late in the game, or just preserving Vulpix so it'd be Heat Wave, or knowing that Will-O-Wisp would go through. I did also notice, though, that Evan did not have Aerial Ace, which a lot of Rufflet do opt to run, just because that gives you the opportunity to ignore your Hustle ability completely and still hit those super strong attacks, no matter what you go for, really, because Aerial Ace cannot miss.
Yeah, the trade-off, of course, is that Brave Bird is 30 base power stronger as a Dynamax move, which is pretty significant. So, you know, very much the call on how much you want to lean on the Dynamax Rufflet. Running the Brave Bird over a move like that Aerial Ace really, really makes you want to be Dynamaxing that Rufflet a little bit more guaranteed than otherwise. You know, like, you probably still want to Dynamax the Rufflet most of the time. But if you're running Aerial Ace, you have that option to use it and not feel super pushed in towards that eventuality. Sort of the way that Ben was in that game. You know, he felt okay to Dynamax the Tangela despite the fact that he brought his Hustlemon. And it's interesting that we're getting to see different ways of approaching the same Pokemon, right? Like, we've seen 2 very different Tangelas in game number 1. And while we didn't really confirm all that much information about the Rufflet on Ben's side, maybe that's something that they have as a bit of a difference as well. Brave Bird versus Aerial Ace is the flying move.
Yeah, that could be something, you know, that could be a difference here and everywhere. And like we've seen as parallels to regular VGC, you often see Pokemon that have slightly different, you know, moves or spreads or something just to fulfill a different role, whether that be you want to be slightly bulkier, so you can live a certain move and then get a knockout in return, or vice versa, you want to get the knockouts on those bulky Pokemon that you want to really not bother with that bulk. You do see, though, that on this one, talking about bulk, we do see that Onix coming alongside the Porygon, 2 of the bulkiest Pokemon in this format. And if that Trick Room gets going straight away, that is going to be really annoying for these 2 Pokemon sat in front of us, given they both don't like the rock typing of Onix.
Is that an Assault Vest Onix? No Protect, no status moves, just attacking moves. An interesting decision if that's what it is, because, you know, Onix, not exactly the most offensive Pokemon in the world, and it's going to struggle to put out some of that damage, but Breaking Swipe is a really cool option there, an option to lower the attack on both of the opposing Pokemon. He does need to be a little bit careful of that Rufflet because, you know, Rufflet does tend to carry, like it does tend to carry Hustle, but it has access to Defiant as well, I believe. No, actually it doesn't. That's only Braviary. So, okay, cool. Yeah, he's in the clear.
He's in the clear for sure, and if he can, with the typing as well on the Onix, you know, he has to really go for those Max Knuckles, try and get knockouts. And of course, Max Knuckle is weakened when you as a Dynamax move, so it would be a shame to see that, but the Energy Ball goes out and hits that Sturdy straight away.
Yeah, it's a big Energy Ball there, doubly super effective, and a U-turn to pick up the surviving Sturdy Onix. Really good turn number 1 there for Ben. It does look like we're going to be seeing Trick Room clicked here. But picking up a nice KO on turn number 1 is not bad. And especially if Evan's Tangela is sitting on the Chlorophyll ability as well, then it's not going to like being in Trick Room.
It's definitely not going to enjoy that Trick Room whatsoever, and neither is this Rufflet. Rufflet is known for being just super fast and super strong. You can't really say much about it. most players opt to just go for like 252, 2524 on it, just to make sure it's going fast, it's going strong. And since we know Evan has got that bulkier Rufflet with the Eviolite, this could be its time to shine. Max Rock Falls could pop off and hit either of these Pokemon really. Yes, you get the drawback if you have Sand set up, which would have been really nice for that Onyx, which you do see on Team Preview had an Assault Vest, so even with that 4 times effectiveness, Assault Vest was nothing to that Energy Ball. So to see how Evan picks up, maybe the game plan was to rely on how bulky Onyx can be with Trick Room set up, but, you know, Rufflet could do just the same with its Eviolite, and we could see damage go out everywhere if it is slower than the Pokemon on Ben's side of the field.
Well, it looks like it does have a decent amount of speed investment from what was just shown to us there, but it's not a plus speed nature. There's a chance that Evan's Rufflet is slower than Ben's, which would be beneficial, obviously, in this Trick Room. Remembering, of course, that the Porygon did have a download boost on the special side of things, which is what it wants to have as well. Porygon, a pretty solid option for Little Cup. 5 base special attack is nothing to sneeze at, so with that +1 boost, Tri-attacks are going to be doing a lot of damage here as well. Especially with the Silk Scarf. I believe it's holding a Silk Scarf as well.
I did see a Silk Scarf, which is the item of choice people do often go with Porygon, because it is so bulky. You don't want it to be losing its HP to Life Orb. Eviolite is somewhat else we can see on Evan's team. So just boosting those normal type moves further and further is amazing. And we could see a paralysis would be nice, but also means that Ben's Pokemon are slowed down, but getting that burn on this Rufflet would be amazing, because it'll just give it that little bit of neutralization that'll keep it doing even less damage. You see it takes loads because of those boosts, and the Rufflet misses. The Will-O-Wisp there as Max Rockfall comes through. Your reactions there tell us everything, as it does go into that Vulpix Stone, not into the Rufflet, maybe not expecting to do much damage, and that Sand will mitigate the Sun, and if the Tangler comes in, it will be slowed down, but once Trick Room ends, it won't be as fast as it wants to be.
Well, the Knuckle comes on in. The biggest problem now is that the Porygon 2 is set to KO that Rufflet with another hit. The critical hit does add on a fair bit of damage to Evan's Rufflet, which is nice to have. Life Orb on this Rufflet as well on Ben's side of the field, good to know. So a huge amount of damage output from that thing is to be expected if it can be allowed to continue moving. But that's the big question. Is it going to get another attack off? Is there some form of disruption that Ben has in the back here that can get him through this? It's going to have to be the Tangela. It is. Okay. Maybe.
Maybe we could see some things go through. Of course, that Tangela, if it eats one of these moves from the Ruffler, it's likely going to go down. Like even in the Trick Room, like Max Airstream, look how low the Pokemon are on Ben's side of the field. Max Airstream can just knock out the Tangela. A Tri-Attack will likely get that Rufflet, and then Evan will be on the train going home to that victory, which, you know, would be really nice to see in this Caster Showdown. Because, you know, always nice to see the newer people coming in, defeating these older people, and maybe Evan can be like, yeah, you've had all those finished, you know, all those roles with Victory Road, but I can still say I'm the best lookup player out of the two of us. But Ben can still put some roadblocks in the way to see if they do come out, and if there are any techs up the sleeve to try and, you know, stop things going off as Protect does pop off from that Tangler.
Yeah, this was about the worst case scenario for Evan, doubling into a Protect, which is interesting because that also confirms to us that Tangela's not running Sleep Powder. I actually really understand maybe thinking, okay, you're running 3 attacks and a Tangela, probably running it the way some people like to run Venusaur, where you're running Sleep Powder instead of Protect, because that becomes Max Guard anyway. That is not the case here. Weakness Policy proc through the Protect, Tangela's going to survive, and Rufflet is going to dish out big damage with this Max Steel Spike.
Max does going to do loads of damage, just miss the knockout on the opposing Rufflet, but will that matter? Because that Sand is just going to get rid of it. And that is something I've rarely ever seen on a Rufflet in my time playing Little Cup. You know, I also to see it boosting its attacking stats, boosting its speed stack with the Brief Bird boosts, but just everything coming in here, the defense boost is going to come in handy if we do see attacker in the back, but and with Trick Room slowly dwindling off, it's going to be perfect to just have that steamroll in front of Porygon, especially since, you know, it's going to, you know, Porygon's going to be getting hit by those stronger physical fighting attacks, and with those defense boosts, Pawniard is doing less and less, and Tangler, again, is going to be fine in front of either of these Pokemon, because start, you know, putting loads of damage down on things. It can't really touch that Pawniard, but Pawniard doesn't mind, because it'll probably get a knockout in return. If not, Rufflet can kind of just get rid of it anyway.
Pawniard is another Pokemon that I'm going to very quickly have to check the speed stat of, but it is 60. A lot of these Pokemon in Little Cup tend to be 60. A lot of Pokemon start at 60. Even the slower ones start at 60 and then go down as they evolve. So another 60 base speed Pokemon alongside the Rufflet, and I believe Tangela is also 60s. So, gonna be interesting to see how these speed interactions play out. Of course, no Airstreams from the Rufflet. We're still in Trick Room. And the slowest thing, well, Pawniard does have access to Sucker Punch, but it's not quite enough to remove the Rufflet. After that really, really nice Steel Spike boost, Giga Drain comes into the Porygon, and that is a critical hit. Gonna be more than enough to remove that Porygon. A huge crit there on Ben's side. And it looks like for the second time in a row, the player that looked out is gonna come back and win the game.
Yeah, it looks so good for Evan in that situation, but that crit plus the +2 from the weakness policy did really rub the salt in the wound, the sand in the wound, some may even say, given the field state. Of course, Pawniard won't go down to the sand chip, but does that matter given what's on the field here? Tangela, no, it's probably got a lot of bulk invested into it, just to make sure that its weakness policy boosts are doing its thing. You can still get them while still being as strong as possible. So it'll come down to, what happens at the back as well. We could see a tailwind to kind of clean things up. We could see a double up to clean things up to guarantee there is a hit going down. But Ben has a nice safe standing point here and can easily just tap this Pawniard and have it fall over and call it game 2.
Yeah, I don't really see a way out of this. Both these Pokemon should be carrying 100% accurate moves. Sucker Punch is going to be able to do an amount of damage to the Fletchling, just making sure that the Fletchling doesn't get away unscathed. But that's going to be it for game number 2. Ben tying up the set 1-1 here. And, we're getting some very dynamic Little Cup here, Kana.
We are getting some, it is very dynamic, and it's nice to see these Pokemon just, on the big screen and having loads of fun doing it. It's nice to see, players having to think, like you said, with that 60 base speed on most things. It's do I switch in my Sun to boost my speed, or do I just kind of leave it and hope for those speed ties? And that came in really handily in the Trick Room, because everything was either super slow and running speed ties, or was going to be super fast and just out of the game already at that point. So maybe players have to think around that. Maybe Ben will go straight with that fast mode, or maybe Evan will just go straight again with that slow mode, just put the pressure on whatever mode Ben does go for.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Evan goes for here. I think that's going to be the driving force of how the game plays out. We did see him decide in game number 2 to bring that Trick Room mode, bring that Onix. I feel like I would put a lot of money on Onix not showing up this time around, knowing that there is, of course, Energy Ball on the Vulpix. That thing just dropped immediately. The Assault Vest did not help it whatsoever. So I think Onix probably going to be on the outs this time around, but Porygon was pretty solid. I don't think we saw Evan bring it in game number 1, but in game number 2, that thing did a job.
Yeah, it did what it wants to do, really. Like in Little Cup, you often see it popping off and doing loads of damage. Of course, you often see your Porygon 2s in like Series 12, Series 13. They just kind of get bulky, throw out some foul plays maybe in a self Trick Room. But its little friend, its little brother in the base Porygon, it likes to do damage. It likes to, fire its tri attacks. If it gets a burn, it gets a burn. It can have a plethora of different items given your most bulky thing in the format anyway. So it'd be nice to see if Evan can get it to pop off a bit more in this game, maybe showing some of the other modes. It has that Icy Wind was nice for outside Trick Room. So maybe Ben won't be expecting that and just think, Trick Room turn 1, or, but Icy Wind could slow down and give maybe Pawniard or Rufflet that speed boost it needs to just kind of sweep again. It could be anyone's game. They both know what is likely to come. You see Porygon 2 from Ben's side this time, and then we see no Porygon 2, but the 2 physical attacking threats coming out straight away for Evan.
Right, it looks like it's coaching time, Kana. The question, this is really interesting. Ben has the opportunity to go for Priority Tailwind with Gale Wings on the Fletchling, or Trick Room from the Porygon 2. I really like that he keeps his options open with this lead. Honestly, either of them seem decent calls into the Rufflet on turn number 1. With Tailwind, you're probably still going to be able to outspeed that Rufflet until it gets that second boost. And with Trick Room, you're able to go first if it does go for an Airstream on turn number 1. But Trick Room, a little bit more of a heavy read.
Yeah, Trick Room is going to be one of those ones where if Ben calls it and there's an Airstream going off, that could be really good for just kind of setting the pace on his own side of the field. But given that Evan has that really slow team, that could really scare Ben into not wanting to press it, just thinking, okay, It's a high risk, high reward. If he goes for it, he goes for it. If he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. He can just bring his fast mode in and go for that tailwind. So it'll come down to what he feels is the best speed control he can go for. The Dynamax coming out though is that Rufflet straight away. So if we see that coaching, that is going to be a very strong and very bulky Rufflet. Unfortunately, not the right stat being buffed for that Porygon 2's favorite special attack. But maybe it is a bit bulky given that EV Light. The Dynamax as well coming out from Ben, so we could just see a Dynamax Showdown.
Porygon. No, it's Rufflet, actually. Wow, okay. Actually, this is kind of cool, too, because while that Kupfu is scarfed, Fletchling has priority max airstreams here with the Gale Wings ability, so that is going to be super, super neat. The only priority Dynamax moves in the entire game, but it's not enough. The Fletchling just does not have the attack stat necessary to remove that Kupfu.
Yeah, it was a really good call there from Ben just to try and be like, okay, I'll get that boost off as quick as possible and down to as quick as possible. But Kupfu being in that weird bulk area, yes, it's fragile, but Rufflet is also fairly fragile.
No!
He comes out onto that Rufflet, and that's going to literally stop the tracks of what looked like to be a great turn for that returning speed boost. But Evan calling it well, not fearing a trick room. Ben calling it well, going for that priority move. Still going to be a priority though, because it is max HP on the Fletchling, and you know it could just knock out the Kupfu, get another speed boost, and then we could just see Porygon going as fast as it wants to go and get knockouts and even freezes or burns or paralysis as and where it wants to if it is lucky enough.
That's so unfortunate. A 6% chance there for, I guess, closer to 7, but a 7% chance for that freeze. You know, even with paralysis, as long as you don't get full parity, you're feeling pretty okay. The burn sucks a little bit, but you have +1 and another coaching potentially to offset that. But no. Wow, that really, really hurts. The freeze is the worst case scenario here for Evan. You can see that Dynamax Rufflet not moving a muscle on our screens right now. The upside is that Evan is going to be able to stall out the Dynamax of the Fletchling pretty effectively, but it's the Porygon 2 that's dishing out all of the damage.
Yeah, Porygon 2 is just loving this field type right now. Often you see it, like we've been saying these past couple games, going for those trick room modes and just being slow and bulky and then doing its damage over time. But maybe Ben has got a team that is going to orientate maybe on like a slightly speed-invested Porygon that can work either in Trick Room or out Trick Room, especially with these speed boosts. And even now with these speed boosts, like Fletchling doesn't really need its Gale Wings. It can go for a Fire-type move that has it. Pawniard might not enjoy that. You know, the Focus Sash is broken. If there's any like cheeky fighting-type moves hovering about on that side of the field as well, they're easy to get rid of that Pawniard because whilst Rufflet is frozen, it is not a problem, and there's no sign of it thawing out for the future few turns unless you get that lucky roll. I believe it is between 10 and 30% chance to unthaw. I never really did the math on it because you know you're always too salty when you see it. Airstream does very little damage to that Rufflet, but often probably just going in and thinking, okay, not wanting to touch that Pawniard, it can't really touch me, let's get rid of this Rufflet while it's still going. The Sucker Punch failed.
Oh no. Yeah, he went for Sucker Punch into the Fletchling, but it has the same priority, so Fletchling still goes first, and Sucker Punch fails as a result. Not a single Dynamax move used by the Rufflet on Evan's side, and it's not long for this world with 34 HP, Evan. Or Kana, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's not going to be hanging around for a long time, and we do see that Evan does have to opt to go something like a Rock Slide just to maybe try and catch this Fletchling. Obviously, not 4 times weak to Rock like its evolved forms, which is going to be nice if we do see the fallout. A Sunny Day comes through, which, you know, could be fearing, maybe just go hoping, hey, you get a knockout, but I get a switch in, which could be great for that attack if it comes in. Tri-Attack is going to go down on that Rufflet. It's likely going to drop. It does not survive that one bit. No crits needed whatsoever. Let's see what Pawniard goes for. As the Iron Head comes out, goes into Fletchling, and it takes it fairly well. So maybe a little bit of a spanner in Ben's works, because it is going to mean he didn't get that Tangler switch in that he really wanted. And we do see that, unfortunately, on Team Preview, that is a regenerated Tangler from Evan, so no lucky calls on getting that Sun Up by the opponent.
I mean, he's +3 anyway. Chlorophyll's not going to get him out of this. Regenerator at this point probably going to be more useful for Evan. So we'll see if the Pawniard's able to pick up the Fletchling. It looks like it's almost definitely going to be a roll. Tangela probably able to go for a Sleep Powder into the Porygon 2, and then maybe switch out to heal up whatever damage it takes from the incoming attack.
Yeah, it's going to come down to these rolls and whatever damage, whatever attacks go into it. Tailwind coming out, again, that Gale Wing's not really minding because it has got those speed boosts. Try attack was coming through as well. Gonna fight into that Tangle, which does a large chunk.
Oh,
Sleep
no!
was missed. And that's going to be really annoying because, you know, that super strong Pokemon in the Porygon is going to be running out of 1 HP live on that Phantom Focus Sash as well. Peggy, there is lots of things happening right now that is making Little Cup seem a lot more fun than regular VGC right now.
Fun? Evan is getting absolutely destroyed by RNG right now. I don't know. I think one of these players is having a lot of fun. The other one maybe not. Well, the upside is no more priority on that Fletchinder, or Fletchling, so Sucker Punch will go in and pick this Pokemon off, so technically it's 3-3. Technically it's tied. Try attack from the Porygon once again. This one going to go into the Protect. That also looks like a potential roll. Nah, actually, I'm pretty sure that's going to pick up based on the damage that it did the first time around, so Tangela in a lot of trouble here. Going to need to switch out and get that Regenerator going.
It's going to want to switch out, but will it like what it can switch into? Because obviously, you know, we've seen how much this Porygon can do. Maybe Ben has got a really offensive-based Porygon too, maybe like maxed out special attack, and the Kubfu, you know, it's done its job really, so it could be a good pivot for Evan, but that just means that, you know, Tangler's coming back in straight away and it's going to take as much damage as it was before, just with a little bit more HP, so it could last it out, and we don't know. Of course, with Rufflet on the field as well, it is just going to be a bigger scare or whatever Pokemon comes in that slot. Rufflet takes about 50% from that Sucker Punch, though, making it shake in its boots a little bit. Kubfu drops to the Tri Attack. Porygon 2 going to town on Evan's team.
No, not this time. Evan can't get a single bit of RNG in his favor here. That's going to be a very, very deleted Pawniard from that close combat. So another double KO for Ben. Life Orb recoil into the Rufflet. It's taking quite a lot of damage. But Tangela is, okay. Double Hustle Miss and Sleep Powder hitting the Porygon 2 maybe is enough to at least, I mean, there's still a Pokemon in the back, so probably not. But that's the out that Evan has to play to.
Evan has got to play to that, and of course, this could be at one time when Commentator's Curse could be a good thing for a player if it does go through. Evan, though, looking to seem to go for anything other than that. Go for that Giga Drain, maybe just trying to have the longevity. Tri Attack comes through. Does a nice chunk to a Tangler Brave Bird from the kind of the hits this. I'm losing my words here, and the Giga Drain is going to do a little bit of damage, get the HP back, but as you said, it's gonna have to come down to multiple hustle misses.
Well, now at this point it doesn't matter anyway because the Porygon's not asleep. But seeing that very, very paltry damage coming out from the Giga Drain, I don't think this Tangela was ever getting through that Porygon anyway. So, looks like Ben is going to have just enough about him here to close up the game. Porygon looking like a very, very good call in this Little Cup match. Doing great work for Evan, even though he wasn't quite able to win that game 2 with it. And then doing great work here for Ben in game number 3.
Yeah, it did amazing work for him. It was a very back and forth game, as if they're playing a bit of ping pong between matches. And we have got them here with us now to have a bit of a chat about their game. So, how does it feel for you two, you know, going back and forth like that? Ben has got a smile all across his face, taking a win over pretty much our Little Cup professional here in the VR cast.
I just want to say that I deserved game 3, and, you know, that really, as Evan was saying earlier today, there's there's the luck difference, and then there's the player difference, and clearly that came through.
It was really fun, like overall.
Yeah.
Because we were actually chatting in a different call. Yeah, just getting to know each other more, and I have a lot of respect for Ben.
Yeah,
for just being a veteran player, and like we just laughed it off when that freeze happened. But that was so cool to see, like something like the Porygon able to make a comeback right off of a freeze, and just me being unlucky not being able to get any of my max moves off. Yeah, but this is the game we play, so
you should have just told your Rufflet to thaw, Evan. Come on, man.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah, Evan was like, "Oh, Rufflet, why did you do this to me again?" No, we had a lot of fun behind the scenes. We were laughing the whole way through and just chatting, and that it was really good to play. But because I don't think Evan and I have played before in any form of tournament, unless I'm mistaken. So it's really cool to be able to
I don't remember either. Yeah. So I
yeah,
don't think
like
so.
just play, even if it's Little Cup, doesn't really matter. It's just fun to play any form of VGC, right?
Yeah, I totally agree, and kind of get to know you more as well, as players. And yeah, now I will look forward to playing you in the future if there are some like live events, right, where we get to meet.
Yeah, definitely.
It'll be
So
fun to
on the
meet
other
you.
side of the window, guys, how was that to cast for you guys? Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see the different approaches to the different Pokemon. You had the Life Orb Rufflet on one side, the Eviolite Rufflet on one side. I imagine that your Tangela was Chlorophyll, Ben.
Yeah, it was.
So
Yeah,
you had Chlorophyll versus Regenerator. Lots of different ways to run the overlapping
Yeah.
Pokemon, which was really, really cool. And I thought that was a really, really neat aspect to sort of be able to watch and be able to hone in on.
Yeah, it was amazing to see from our end. Like, if you could hear our commentary, like, me and Pengy were there was a couple screams of like surprise and stuff when we saw like the freeze. We saw like different things. We did have a couple cheers for Hustle to actually miss, so we were actually hoping a move missed, just because Evan had
Me
such
too.
bad luck in that
Yeah.
game 3, and if that's just the roulette you play when you play Rufflet. You can get burnt, you can get frozen, you can get paralyzed, you can miss, you can get flinched. Rufflet can have anything happen to it. It's just one of those annoying Pokemon, and we saw it with Durant in regular VGC. So maybe just if I play someone in Little Cup, I have to give a little bit of love to my Rufflet and maybe pet it, play Pokemon Camp with it, just to kind of be like, hey, do your job, hit all your moves, or just don't get hacked.
Yeah. We were joking in the background because I was like, Evan was saying it right at the end of game 3 was saying like, oh, I hope you miss a move, and I was there. I was totally oblivious. If I'm completely honest with everyone. And I was like, oh, did you change to Bright Powder between games 2 and 3? I'm like, how does it miss? And then I was like, it's Hustle, Ben, and I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't even know I could miss.
Yeah, so obviously Ben's Rufflet was more obedient than mine. Yeah. But overall, like, I thought that with Dynamax, like Little Cup was kind of a cool way to play Sword and Shield matches, right? And to me, it still felt quite balanced overall, even though some Pokemon like Rufflet are said to be really powerful. Then the one that I had with the Eviolite was so interesting. It was able to survive so many moves, even a +3 Tangela, right? Like special attack. So that was very, very cool to see. And just want to give some shout outs, like props to the Daycare Pokecup team. Like these are a bunch of passionate and lovable VGC players that have been building this Little Cup format for VGC, since the one in singles is only for level 5 and like sort of singles, there's no VGC element in it. But yeah, having this like format and community built to have this nice meta game of Little Cup mons, it's just very refreshing. And to me, what a nice way to end like the Dynamax era of Pokemon like Sword and Shield.
Yeah, you get to, when everybody was tweeting what their last Dynamax Pokemon was, you get to be like, yeah, my last Dynamax Pokemon was a Rufflet.
Frozen Rufflet.
Hell yeah.
I think Ben's might be even more to write home about. He Dynamaxed a Fletchlinder, which is something not even Talonflame was seen besides like
That was such a cool
short
move,
period of like 2020.
Yeah, with its max airstream off Peck.
Max Peck. Dynamax Peck.
Oh, is that explains why it wasn't doing any damage?
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I can lead Fletchling and be like, oh, I can deal with the Kubfu with the Porygon, and there's great synergy there. And then it's like, oh, it's Peck. But
All right. Well, I'm glad we were able to cast this this pretty neat, unique match. I do like about the sort of pre-show stuff. We get to do a little bit of a more unique stuff. And I believe that's the end of our main schedule, but we have a bit of a preview for the actual matches for the finals tomorrow. So, we can switch on over to that momentarily, where we can look at the players being fielded by both Canada and Thailand. So, also, just side note, what a cool finals. I don't think anybody would have predicted Canada versus Thailand in the finals of the World Cup.
Yeah, I didn't really think it would happen either. As soon as I saw Thailand rising up those ranks, I was rooting Thailand. But again, at the same time, I was rooting Canada as well. secretly I kind of, I'm split really. I have a lot of friends in the Canada side, and a lot of friends well, not really friends, but like a lot of people who I think I'd be good friends with in the Thailand team. Especially when they've had such unique teams going through. They've had like hyper offense teams, super bulky teams. One of their players, they won their own nationals with Xerneas of all things when it kind of died off in this format. So it'd be nice to see what we can get from that.
All right, and here we go. Match number 1. Keelan Van Severen against Jong Dae-jung. Then we got Ryan Lassetto versus Narawich Naina. I'm so sorry, Thailand's players. I'm doing my best, I promise. Then going up next, we got William Patterson versus Papon Jirawatanakul. Matt Tid versus Chayawat Nontaro, as he's known, the Xerneas player that you were just talking about, the national champion of Thailand. Jean-Marc Hebert against Akarapon, and then Navjit Joshi against Gunke Sathorn, and then Neil Patel versus Panyawut Noijan. So a pretty awesome match. We've seen this Thai team come together in ways that it just speaks to the leadership of the team and the team atmosphere that they have. That they work together so closely that their leaders are able to build up everybody else to perform to the absolute best of their ability. And I think the same can be said of Canada. These are not the crazy top-heavy teams that made it to the finals, but it's teams that are known for having really, really solid management.
True, and these players, if you guys have noticed, in the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks of games, they've actually been fielded quite a lot in the on stream in the playoffs bracket. So these players are kind of no strangers to the pressure that you have in top card bracket or in these matches like this. 7 versus 7, there is no sort of no mistake, right? Every win really matters. So it's nice to see all of them ride this momentum and come in with so much confidence with their games, and I'm sure it will show in all these matches tomorrow.
I'm really, really excited. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful match, and I hope that all of you out there will join us as well. Of course, don't miss it. And if you want to stay updated, these are the socials that you should be following. Of course, Victory Road VGC's YouTube is a great way to get caught up. Make sure you know what's going on and what's what we've been seeing from these teams in the past going into the finals. The Twitter, of course, at VGC Victory Road. Even once the World Cup is done, what a fantastic Twitter account to follow. So many great resources. My personal favorite thing that Victory Road does outside of the tournaments is the recaps they do, showing off the top X teams from every major tournament. Great website to be following. Great Twitter account to be following. And, of course, check out all of the information at worldcupvgc.com because there's so much love and effort that has gone into that website. So many cool statistics that you can follow. And it's a fun place to just get lost for a good 20 minutes.
Now, I just want to quickly chime in with that, like the stats that we showed earlier, myself and Ben, that we showed on stream. Those are just the tip of the iceberg. There's just so many more interesting things, so many more players that we only featured a few players that went 4-0. There's so many players that got 4-0 records, 3-0 records. They are essentially undefeated in 2022 World Cup. So shout outs to these people, right? And like what Pengi said, like really can get lost in the website because it's really well built to be able to show the stats and show the teams, and it's such a nice way to close off Series 12.
Yeah, it's a great way to close it off, because some people, they enjoyed it, they didn't enjoy it. Series 12 was always a back and forth really of what we liked about it. Honestly, I'm glad a lot of these players have really closed off, the year with Series 12. Spikemuth and Series 13, again, is a case of some people have really enjoyed it, some people haven't. So it's nice to see the players pulling through as far as they can and just having fun with the game and having that little last thing to check off their tick list, being like, I finished 2022 into Scarlet and Violet as a World Cup finalist.
Yeah, it should be really good to see all of those players and what they do in the next seasons. But of course, we need to see what the result of the World Cup is going to be. So, without further ado, tomorrow we will be back at 1 p.m. UTC. So please do make sure that you join us if you can. We're looking forward to seeing the games. We're looking forward to seeing all of you there. But for now, we are going to close the show here. So again, 1 p.m. UTC tomorrow, Sunday, we'll be back with the World Cup of Pokemon VGC, sponsored by GG Tour, Elgato, and Metafi. We look forward to seeing you then.